Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So we are from group 6. Today we would like to presentation about style, context, and register. So uh, the first presenter will be present by Chelsea.
All right. For the first is about addressee and as an influence on style. Our speech styles are produced differently. This is this is due to several factors that are for the first ages. Ages is people are usually talk differently by seeing the age of the interlocutors. Second one is gender. Gender is men are more at ease in their social context. Women appear to be conscious about their status and thus tend to use higher standard language in terms of talking. Next, please. All right. Next is social rules. The higher a person's social role, the more respectful and careful people talk to him. Next is social distances. The distance of the relationship is also one of the factors causing differences in speech styles. This is related to what is called positive and negative politeness. And the last is social backgrounds. This is the addressee might influence our speech style in terms of our speech accommodation signals, our desire to keep on the conversation, and our attitude about the addressee. So for the next presenter will be presented by Aziza Hitari.
So the next is about accommodation theory. So accommodation theory is a theory about the ways to adjust when communicating between speakers and listeners. There are effect, way, and problem in doing communication. First, speech convergence. Uh, Speech convergence is the effect that when talking, the listener could catch the message conveyed by the speaker. In other words, speech convergence is another word for connected communication, not miscommunication. To get speech convergence, speakers and listeners must have the same shared knowledge. For example, when Chelsea, as a speaker, talks to Nurul as a listener about Titanic, if Chelsea or Nurul only have the concept of Titanic, so when talking about Titanic, there will be no convergence. The second is speakers accommodate. So speakers accommodate is the way the speaker adjusts the language with the ability of the listener, so that the message or the in, intended meaning can be received by the listener and there is no miscommunication in the conversation. So the speaker must be clever to adjust when communicating with the listener. For example, in multilingual countries such as Singapore, India, or Zaire, with their variety of language, people who are there choose a language that is comfortable to use when communicating with their addressee. The last is speech divergence. Uh, Speech divergence, an effect that occurs when having a conversation, the listener cannot capture the meaning of the speaker. So there is no convergence communication in the conversation and creates miscommunication. For example, when Chelsea talks about cartoon, Nurul is not at all knowing what a cartoon is. Under such under such circumstance, their communication is divergence. Okay, the next presenter will be present by Norma Hayati.
Okay, next, downward convergence and upward convergence. Downward convergence involves adjustment in the direction of the speech norms from a higher class to a lower class. And while upward convergence occurs when speakers adjust their speech to exhibit the norms from a high status individuals in their society. For example, first, downward convergence is when someone with an RP or received pronunciation accent tuning down their accent to match with a lower class accent. And then downward convergence is when someone with a higher class or working class accents trying to eliminate some of the stronger features of their speech for a received pronunciation speaker. The next slide, please. Okay, next, studies of accent convergence. Um, Actually, it is about language convergence too, and refers to what can happen to linguistically when speakers adapt to the speech of others to reduce differences, such as it is a type of accommodation or modification. And yeah, it is the opposite of divergence, which is the exploitation and making quantitatively more differences. And we can imagine this is to be a long-term effect of dialogue or language. And there is a accent divergence. It is talk about when speaker seeks to alter their speech in order to make themselves linguistic different. Because we know that convergence and divergence can take place in an upward or downward language. And responses show the extreme accent divergence following some attack. For example, burn there was accent, like introduc- introduction to words or phrases and etc. I think that's enough. And the next presenter is Chelsea.
All right. Now it's about stylization and accommodation problems. So about stylization is when someone goes beyond their usual or normal ways of speaking and behaving and engages in a high or strong performance of some sort. For example, of stylization are found in the speech of comedians and singers who perform to entertain or amuse us. Stylization can draw on any aspect of language. A stylized performance may involve features of a particular regional accent or stigmatized vernacular grammatical feature or very formal grammar or very erudite vocabulary or high pitch or a distinctive intonation pattern. Next, please. All right, about accommodation problems. There are several examples of problems in communication, including miscommunication, circumstances where the message of the speakers cannot be captured by listener for not having shared the same knowledge and concept. It is when you talking with people come from different backgrounds or have different experiences, this is my occasional problems, like when someone mispronounce a word in a conversation when you're talking. So the best way of solving an accommodation problems will depend on the context, the speech accommodation or style shifting, which often occurs unconsciously in casual context, may not be appropriate in more formal settings, as we shall see in this next section. Though an ingenious social linguist can often elicit remarkable style shift, even within an interview. I think that's all. So next will be presented by Nurul Anissa.
Okay, next is context, style, and class. Next, what is context? Context is a concept, semantic structure that is in the mind, each of the human mind. Next, the first one, colloquial style or vernacular, is a standardized form of language and it doesn't have any official status. Second is formal context and social roles. A person's social role is determined by his or her position or status in the society, so the speech style will be influenced by the social role. Third is social class and style. The style change when we speak to people from different social backgrounds such as lower, middle, or upper class. The next slide will be presented by Aisha.
Okay, I the last presentation. So it's about hypercorrection. So what is hypercorrection? It is the exaggeration of some lower class speakers in imitating middle class standard speech. So that lower middle class and exterior standard of correctness, insecurity about their own speech, it is called hypercorrection. They try to use the prestige norm used by upper class. So for the example, the use of I rather than me in constructions such as between you and I. So the use of I for me and who from who, perhaps the most common example of hypercorrectness, is the use of I for me in a compound subject between you and I. Uh, then other common hypercorrect forms include who, for who, as for like, see, as any other normal person want to be well thought of. The ending where it doesn't belong, some verb forms like for, lie, shall, for will, and many pronunciations. Okay, next slide. Register. Register is a occupational style using specialist or technical jargon. It describes the language of groups of people with common interests or jobs. So, or the language used in the situation associated with such groups, such as the language of doctors, engineers, journal, and etc. A language used in a particular social economic setting, for example, legal or academic register. Next. Okay. The last is about play-by-play commentary. It focuses on actions by using telegraphic grammar, synthetic reduction, interpretation of normal word order in sentences. And then color commentary, it focuses on people with heavy and long modifications or descriptions of nouns when having time noun modification. So I think that's enough for my explanation today. Thank you for your understanding. I hope you all the watch this video you understand about our explanation. So, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.